interesting was that as the World Health Organization, as other organizations spilled out best practices in the late 70s and into the early 80s, many newsrooms adopted this idea that they should be thoughtful about how to cover it. And they were. And if you looked at the reporting for the better part of a decade, people got more and more sophisticated. You don't put suicide in the headlines. You don't describe the details of how people died. You make certain that you give hotline information. There's a whole variety of best practices. Check out the World Health Organization. It also all came undone about 10 years ago, and I've been trying to sniff around and figure out why. And one of the things that I would ask journalists who were reporting on this if they had heard about those guidelines, many of them had, but their editor had told them they should cover it because somebody else was covering it. And it was always about pointing to someone else, particularly around celebrity suicides. So Columbia University decided to do analysis of the Robin Williams case. And if I remember the numbers correct, they're on the order of magnitude, right? It was a 16% increase in suicide and a 32% increase in the copycat of mode. That means that describing how people die actually really matters because it gives people an idea who are already on the edge of suicide potential as this. I'm on the board of an amazing organization called Crisis Text Line, where unfortunately we can track the impact of reporting because we get flooded with people who always reference it. They reference the stories. They reference, well, if Anthony Bourdain did this, then why can't I? Clearly, I'm never going to be as successful as him. Right? So you can see all of this feeding into the American psychology. This does not mean that you shouldn't cover the fact that Anthony Bourdain died. Of course you should. But you do not need the word suicide in your notifications sent out to everybody's phone. You do not need suicide in the headline or in the first section. You need to make certain that people have access to different kinds of resources, that they know where to turn in different ways. You need to think of it as a part of an ecosystem. Now that doesn't mean people won't start searching. They always search after this, right? I mean, I can talk you through all of the searches for Anthony Bourdain. And one of the things that's really tricky for those of us who do anything related to search is to then try to find other ways of adding that content, right? And this is what we've been trying to work with the tech industry. And I have a lot of frustration with the tech industry on the way that they handle this as well. But my ask on this is there are best practices for industry. And I understand that it's being covered on blogs in detail. And I understand that the public wants to know gory details about how somebody died. That doesn't mean that amplifying it is actually for the general benefit of the public. But it is newsworthy, of course, to cover that someone died, to celebrate their life, and to make certain that anybody who is curious to learn more has access to the support structures that they need.
Okay.